what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the End Zone Report. As always, I will be your host, Chris, and this is a show where we tackle the NFL. Welcome to the first annual Christmas show on the podcast. Merry Christmas to you all. Happy holidays to all of you and your families. This is going to be a fun time. We've got a jam-packed schedule heading into the holiday weekend. We have games on Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Surprisingly, no games on Friday, but there are other days to go around for this week. We also get into a lot of injuries, some major playoff implicating injuries again as well. And then we'll go through some of the storylines, fantasy corner, show me the money, everything else that we do on the show every week. Before we get into all that, though, you can watch the show every week at youtube.com/the End Zone Report. You can also listen to the audio version and now the video version on Spotify. That's right. You can watch the show as well on Spotify. Go ahead and check out the social media pages as well. Facebook, Instagram, and X. That's where I post all the artwork from each and every episode, so you can take a look at those. I also post all the major news and injuries, including the DK Metcalf suspension, which we will talk about on the show as well. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, that follow button. It helps out the show a lot, and I appreciate everybody for supporting this first year of the podcast. Looking forward to wrapping up this regular season, heading into the playoffs, and then we'll take a little break before we get into the NFL draft season. It's going to be a lot of fun. So with that, let's go see what's up with the NFL and all those playoff injuries. So not only are there some major fantasy playoff injuries, but there's also some NFL playoff-related injuries. Starting at the quarterback position, we've got Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers, suffered a concussion early on in that game against the Bears. He is now in concussion protocol. If he is not able to go, that will mean Malik Willis will get the start for him. Malik Willis finished off that game against the Bears. We will see what happens with Love during this week. Marcus Mariota, the Washington Commanders, also left the game early with a hand injury. If he is not able to go, Josh Johnson will take over quarterback. Gardner Minshew was feared to have torn an ACL, but it seems that he just has a fracture in his knee. So we will monitor him. He's most likely not going to be playing this week. That will leave, what the heck is the third string for the Chiefs? Let's look that up here. I have no idea who is behind Gardner Minshew. Who do we got here? Let's pull up this depth chart. Chris Oladokun? Yeah, I probably butchered that thing hard. He is going to be the start if Minshew isn't able to go, which is what it sounds like is the case. So their third string quarterback will be starting against, I believe it's Denver this week. Denver this week because they are playing on Christmas Day. Lamar Jackson left the game early as well, quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens, with a back injury, and that seems pretty serious. If he is not able to go, Tyler Huntley will get the start. And then J.J. McCarthy of the Minnesota Vikings, it seems to be a hairline fracture in the hand. He has already been ruled out for Thursday. So Max Brosmer will get the start. It's possible that he will be ruled out for Week 18 as well, since they have been eliminated from the playoffs. At the running back position, Quinshon Judkins, rookie running back for the Cleveland Browns, dislocated his ankle and also fractured his fibula. That was such a really horrific sight to where they didn't even show replays on the broadcast. He is pretty much out for the year. We'll see what kind of timetable we're looking at for a return in 2026. But that is not good for the superstar rookie running back. It's such a bummer seeing these young guys get hurt. Speaking of young guys, also rookie running back Trevion Henderson for the New England Patriots left the game early with a head injury. We'll monitor him as well. If you're looking into your fantasy championships this week, Ramondre Stevenson would be the top pickup if he is evidently ruled out, which there is a pretty solid chance that Henderson will not play. And then Jordan Mason, backup running back for the Minnesota Vikings, suffered an ankle injury in that game. I believe Aaron Jones is also banged up as well. lead going into Thursday against Detroit. So we'll monitor that running back room for Minnesota. Wide receiver Pat Bryant of the Denver Broncos suffered a really nasty concussion during this game against the Jaguars. If you did not see it, he got hit by a freight train, and it was a hit heard around the world. He just got eviscerated. It looked like he had a injury to the neck and the back, but it seems to have been just ruled a concussion. He was released from the hospital the next day. So we'll monitor him. It's glad to see that he is okay. That was such a horrendous sight to see on the field. You could tell Bo Nix was very emotional after that hit. He practically destroyed his helmet, smashing it into the field out of frustration and disbelief. And then Demario Douglas, wide receiver of the New England Patriots, suffered a hamstring injury, so we'll monitor that. If he is a no-go, that just means more targets for Booty and Stephon Diggs, who had a massive game this past week. So that pretty much rounds up the major injuries going into Week 17. Of course, we'll monitor a lot of those like Jordan Love, Marcus Mariota. Quinshon Judkins is basically out for the year. We'll look at the Henderson injury and the Jordan Mason injury, as well as that Aaron Jones, because if one of them is ruled out, that means more shares for the other. So we'll keep you updated on that. Let's head over to this week's storylines as well as that Chase-O-Meter in weekly reaction. All right, our first storyline coming out of Week 16 is that the Philadelphia Eagles have both clinched a playoff spot as well as taken the division title in the NFC East after their win over Washington and Dallas's loss to the Chargers. The Eagles beat the Commanders last Saturday, 29-18, while on the road, and then Dallas lost at home to the Chargers on Sunday, 34-17. That was pretty much it for the Dallas Cowboys. Hammer in the nail of the coffin for their playoff hopes, so they will miss the playoffs, as well as the Commanders, and the Giants will actually be playing the Raiders this week to see who will get that number one draft pick in next year's draft. So the Philadelphia Eagles, as a fan base, you're probably feeling pretty good with a chance at back-to-back Super Bowl appearances and Super Bowl wins. So bravo to you. The Eagles will be facing let me pull up the Week 17 schedule. They'll be playing Buffalo in Buffalo this Sunday. So we will talk a little bit more about that game when we get to the game slate. But the Eagles have nabbed one of the few remaining spots in the NFC playoff bracket. And we'll go through the bracket here. I have another storyline to go through the playoff bracket, who's clinched and who's kind of on the outside of the bubble. But we'll get to that. But the Eagles have clinched one of those spots as well as the division title. So bravo to them. The next storyline is a bit of a crazy one. We're going to dive back into the Rams versus Seahawks game last Thursday with that crazy 2-point conversion call by the refs. And the storyline this week is, did the refs get things backwards? So I've actually got the play loaded up here. I'm going to watch it and kind of do a play-by-play while we talk through this. So we have Darnold making what appears to be a backward pass, but it ends up bouncing off of Jared Verse's head of the Rams, kind of rolling into the end zone after a Rams player appears to have touched it. And then that's when Charbonnet comes up to pick it up in the end zone, acting as if to give it to the ref. It turns out, since he was the one to pick it up in the end zone, they ruled that 2-point conversion to be successful based on the fact of how Sam Darnold threw it and it being a fumble, which, I mean, looking at it right here, I guess there is enough, space there behind him to rule that as a fumble of some sort. It is pretty crazy to watch this in slow motion. It's just pretty amazing that it bounced off of not one but two Rams players, and then Charbonnet, not knowing what was going on, just happened to pick it up within the end zone, and the refs call it. I think based on what I'm seeing here on the replay and probably what the refs saw as well, I think the refs got it correct. I think it was behind the line enough to rule it as a fumble or a backward pass, so to speak. This is very confusing, but they did rule it as successful. I think the refs did get it right. It's very very small margin there as far as like backward pass and sorts, but I think on that particular play, the refs did get that one right. Now, the refs have made many, many mistakes throughout not just week 16, but the entire year in general. So, but I do give them props on getting this one correct because what it appears to be the correct call here with the way Sam Darnold threw it and where it was behind the line. It's just pretty funny that Charbonnet didn't even realize what was going on. He just happened to pick it up in the end zone, making it a 2-point conversion. So, but that's just one of the craziest things I have ever seen in a football game in all the years that I've been watching. But I don't think the refs got it backwards. I think they did get this one correct, but feel free to jump in the comments below if you did disagree otherwise. But from what I'm seeing from the replays, I think this was the right call on the throw from Darnold attempting to go to Charbonnet. The next storyline is that DK Metcalf suspension. The NFL did come out today and state that he will be serving a 2-game suspension, which will leave the Steelers pretty vulnerable for these last 2 weeks on their attempt to get into the playoffs. Not only does this have ramifications for the Steelers, but it has ramifications for Metcalf himself as in regards to his guaranteed money on his contract. It's looking like $40 million can be voided based on this suspension. If you don't remember, or you haven't heard about this yet, Metcalf was seen on the broadcast hitting a fan in the stands. Now, Metcalf's side, he's claiming that the fan made some racial slurs, including as well as mentioning his mother. Now, the fan has come out and stated that all he did was call Metcalf by his full name, and that was it. Now, different camera footages have been released, clearly seeing Metcalf strike the fan in front of everybody. Now, I have to imagine that he's mic'd up and other people around him are mic'd up, so they're going to have to probably dig through those audio files and find out exactly what was said between the two people. But Metcalf will be serving a 2-game suspension. He has appealed it, so we'll see what that ends up becoming. But there's a very good chance that he could be basically missing out on $40 million on his contract that he has signed with Pittsburgh. Now, even if the suspension holds, I think Pittsburgh technically can still not make that the case unless the NFL like lays the hammer down and like you cannot give him this money. Like it has to be voided based on the violation of the league conduct. Because even if what Metcalf is saying did happen, where there was racial slurs and comments involving his mother were mentioned, you can't hit a fan, period. Like no matter what, like not even if you're Roger Goodell or Patrick Mahomes or Josh, like you cannot strike a fan whatsoever. So giving him the 2-game suspension is what I think is fair. He's lucky to not be suspended even longer into the playoffs if the Steelers end up making the playoffs. But serving a 2-game suspension is massive this time of the year where the Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to make a push to clinch a playoff spot. So they will be without their number one wide receiver, who they sunk a lot of money into bringing over from Seattle for these last 2 games. So it's really, really unfortunate for Pittsburgh. It's really unfortunate for Metcalf because he will be potentially missing out on $40 million on this massive contract that he signed to come over to Pittsburgh. So we will monitor this situation very, very closely as the appeal goes through and all of that. Our next storyline, Lions and Ravens. Oh my. So the Lions and the Ravens have been just downward spiraling the last few weeks. Let's talk about the Detroit Lions real quick. So they have suffered another loss this week, which was very surprising because I did end up picking them against the Steelers. They lost at home against the Steelers 29-24. This will kick them to 8-7 for their overall record so far in the 2025 season. They are at risk of missing the playoffs. Like, they basically have to win out these next 2 weeks. They have Minnesota coming up on Christmas, and then they will finish off the season with the Bears in Chicago. So it's almost red alert for the Detroit Lions. Let me see if I can find what their current playoff chances are for the Lions. I believe it's like less than 10% is what I saw left. They would have to win out and basically get a lot of help from around the league. Let's see if I can find the percentage here. I think what I heard last was 8%, but I could be wrong. So they are at 7% for playoff probability in the NFC. So they are in basically do or die mode right now. Let's see if we can look at the scenario here. So they have to win both their games, and then I believe Chicago needs to lose. Nope, they need the Packers to lose to have some hope, which they did. They did end up losing to Chicago on Saturday, so that helped them a lot. But yeah, it's pretty much red alert for the Detroit Lions, which is unfortunate because coming into the season, they were favorites to not only appear in the Super Bowl, but to potentially win it all this year. And now they might not even make the playoffs altogether. So this is do or die mode for the Detroit Lions, and it sucks. I think they're really, really cursed. They've had a great team the last couple years since Dan Campbell has really taken charge. I think losing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn really held them back. And it's really unfortunate that they weren't able to get a Super Bowl trophy while they had that coaching staff those couple of years. So red alert for the Detroit Lions this week. All eyes will be on their matchup against Minnesota in Minnesota. Also red alert. We've got the Baltimore Ravens potentially going to be missing the playoffs. They are going to potentially be out without Lamar Jackson. They ended up losing to New England on Sunday night, 28-24. This was a home game, which dropped them to 7-8. Let's look to see what their percentage is for the playoffs. So they are currently at 9%. They basically, like Detroit, need to win out these last two games and have some help around the league. It's looking very, very frightening for Baltimore, especially with that Lamar injury that I talked about in the injuries segment opening up the show. It's not looking great for Baltimore with 9%. Now with Buffalo clinching today, that only leaves 4 playoff spots. We have the Jaguars, the Bills, the Jaguars, and the Broncos have clinched the AFC. We're still waiting, or the Patriots. Now I'm second guessing myself. Who has all clinched in the AFC? I'm kind of stepping on one of the storylines today, but I want to make sure I get this right. Let's pull up these scenarios here. So the Jaguars almost can clinch their second division title. They need to win plus have Houston lose or tie. Then New England can take the AFC East if they win plus Buffalo losing to the Eagles. The Steelers can clinch the AFC North, which would guarantee them a spot if they win, or if Baltimore loses, which could potentially happen if Josh Johnson is playing. The Texans can't clinch a division title this week, but they can earn a playoff berth if they win or if Indianapolis loses. Houston clinches at least a tie in strength of victory tiebreaker over Indianapolis. Okay, let's pull up. Do they not? Oh, they don't have the Ravens on here, which is very surprising. But yeah, the Ravens basically have to win out, just like the Detroit Lions do, and they will need some help around the league as well. So we will monitor that situation as well. This is going to be a interesting playoff where you potentially have no Mahomes, no Joe Burrow, no Lamar, no Jared Goff. This is crazy. Like, this is absolutely insane that we cannot have those. Like, this is the year for Josh Allen. Like, all he has to do in the AFC is beat Drake May, Bo Nix, Trevor Lawrence, and Old Man Rodgers. That's like really all he has to beat. And then I guess if you want to throw CJ Stroud in there, who has been pretty great this down the stretch here towards the end of the season. But like, this is Josh Allen's year. Only he is stopping himself from not only appearing in the Super Bowl finally, but potentially winning it all. So this could be the year of the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. I hope it's the Broncos, obviously, but I mean, if Josh Allen was going to make a run for that Super Bowl title, it would be this year without all those high caliber AFC quarterbacks not making it into the playoffs. So we will monitor the Lions and Ravens very closely this week. And then finally, we have the playoff picture heading out of week 16, going into week 17. So how the seeding is so far, we've got the AFC side, and then I'll jump into the NFC side. So the Denver Broncos are sitting at the number 1 seed. They have clinched a playoff spot. Then we have the New England Patriots coming in at number 2, clinching a spot as well. And then the Jaguars sit at number 3, Pittsburgh Steelers at number 4, the Los Angeles Chargers at number 5. We have the Buffalo Bills, who clinched a playoff spot after the Colts' loss last night, at number 6. And then CJ Stroud and the Texans are sitting at number 7 currently. The NFC, we've got the Seahawks at the number 1 seed. That's pretty amazing for Sam Darnold to be in the driver's seat for the NFC right now. They have clinched a playoff spot. Followed by the Chicago Bears at number 2. They have also clinched a spot. The Philadelphia Eagles, which I mentioned already, clinched a spot. They are sitting at number 3. Then the Los Angeles Rams have also clinched a spot. They are at number 4. And then at number 5 is the Carolina Panthers. If they can hold on to that division title, they will clinch a spot there. The San Francisco 49ers have clinched a playoff spot, and they're sitting on number 6. But they do have a chance of potentially getting the 1 seed in the NFC. They looked pretty solid last night against the Colts, with Brock Purdy ripping apart that Colts defense for 5 touchdowns. Pretty crazy. And then, of course, you have Christian McCaffrey, your ace on the hole. And then you have the Green Bay Packers sitting at number 7, but we'll see how they do with that Jordan Love injury. It could be Malik Willis bringing them into the playoffs if they can win out basically these last 2 weeks. So we will keep an eye out on that. Before we get into Fantasy Corner, let's check out the Chase-O-Meter. And it's a very exciting week for that Chase-O-Meter because Chase Brown has finally hit the green. That is right. He is the current running back 10 on the year. So Megan is in the driver's seat to win that $20 that he has finally broken top 10 running back on the year. In week 16, his fantasy points, again, depending on your league scoring. In the league that I pull all these stats from, it's 32.9 fantasy points, so monster game from him. He had 12 carries for 66 yards on the ground. And then he had another 4 receptions for another 43 receiving yards. He had a total of 3 touchdowns, 1 on the ground and 2 in the air, I believe. I will double check that to be sure. I know he had 2 receiving touchdowns for sure, but I want to double check to make sure that was a rushing touchdown. And it was a rushing touchdown. So he had 1 touchdown on the ground, 2 in the air. Monster game for Chase Brown. So if you had the guts to start him in your fantasy semifinals, you probably got pushed into your championships this week. So bravo to Chase Brown on finally breaking top 10 in that bet between Mr. James and Miss Megan. So let's head over to Fantasy Corner for your week's hero and villain, as well as the End Zone Reports Mock Draft Championship. All right, your Week 16 Hero of the Week is Puka Nacua, wide receiver of the Los Angeles Rams, who went bazooka mode. His fantasy points this week was 46.5 points. So if you started him, you probably got pushed into your championships. If you had the Stafford Puka stack, you definitely probably made it into your championships. So kudos to you for believing in Puka. He had 16 targets, 12 receptions for 225 receiving yards, adding in 2 receiving touchdowns as well. Massive week for Puka Nacua, so he is your hero of the week for your fantasy semifinals. On the other side, we have the villain of the week, Josh Jacobs, running back of the Green Bay Packers. So this is a weird one. So he was injured coming into this game. He was cleared, fully healthy, and ready to roll. A lot of people were counting on him to push them into their championships, and that did not happen. So he ended up getting a fumble during the game, and what is being reported and what the coaching staff has stated, he was punished for that fumble, basically negating the rest of his productivity for the rest of the game. He ended up with 4.8 fantasy points. He had 2 catches for 12 yards. Then he had 12 rush attempts for 36 rushing yards. And then he ended up having that fumble with 0 touchdowns. So if you were counting on Josh Jacobs for your championship run, you probably got kicked out of the playoffs. You may have gotten lucky if you had some other pieces on your roster that made up for that loss. But if you started Josh Jacobs, it was a miserable week for you and your roster, and you probably got kicked over 1 measly fumble. So that is your hero and villain of Week 16. Before we move on to the Week 17 game slate, we have our 2 contestants for the End Zone Reports Championship. This is from the mock draft that we did early on in the season. So if you haven't seen that, go check out that episode where James and I mock draft live together. And this is the result of that draft. We have Megan, the Gridiron Goddess, who is a part of that Chase Brown bet that I mentioned every week with the Chase-O-Meter. She is one of the contestants in the championship, and she will be going up against Alpaca 300. 2 top-notch teams this year, so we're going to have a battle of the rosters and see who comes out on top as the first champion of the End Zone Reports mock draft. So congrats to them on making it to the championship, and we will see who comes out on top after Week 17. So let's head over into the weekly preview with that pick tracker from Week 16, and then we'll get into the Christmas game slate for Week 17. Looking back at Week 16 real quick, I went 11-5 in picks, so not too shabby, but it was not enough to get me some money this week. The 5 picks that I got wrong was Thursday night, kicking it off real early with the Rams losing against the Seahawks in overtime, 38-37. So as soon as the Thursday night game happened, I was like, this is not going to be my week to score some glory. It's tough getting that first game wrong. It kind of sets the tone for the rest of the game slate for your picks. But let's hope Thursday night, Thursday all day, noon at 3:30 and 7 at night, we can get a Christmas miracle and go 3 for 3 on Thursday. I already mentioned it already. Cowboys lost to the Chargers. I ended up picking Dallas at home, hoping that they would have some motivation to make a run for the playoff spot, but they came up real short against the Chargers. The Kansas City Chiefs, I was not expecting Gardner Minshew to get taken out of this game early on. They ended up getting stomped by Cam Ward and the Titans, 26-9, so I ended up getting that wrong. My Broncos let me down against the Jaguars. They lost to Trevor Lawrence, 34-20. They had a chance to take that game, but they just could not get over that hump. So they will add a loss to their record. And then I already mentioned this already, but the Detroit Lions lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers, 29-24 in Detroit. I was really hoping that they would have a lot of motivation to get into the playoffs and win this game. They had an opportunity to win it. They would have won it if not for that Amon-Ra St. Brown offensive pass interference, which is a call I wish was not in the NFL. I'm on the side of I think wide receivers should be able to push off defenders because the way I see it, wide receivers are already at a disadvantage. But it is what it is. So those are the 5 that I got wrong. Let's hope that I can improve on that record and win some money this week in the picks. So kicking us off is the Christmas Day slate. First game we have is the Cowboys going up against the division rival Commanders. The Cowboys are favored by 7 points. The over-under is a whopping 50.5, but we will see if this line changes if Mariota is ruled out and it ends up being Josh Johnson. But with the Cowboys defense being one of the worst defenses in the league this year, Josh Johnson may have a shot at putting some points on the board. So we will see if that 50.5 sticks. I will be taking the Cowboys here. They have the better offense, the better quarterback. So I think they will be victorious as our first game on Christmas Day. So I'm taking the Cowboys. The Detroit Lions take on division rival Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. The Lions are favored by 6. The over-under is 44.5. This will be Jared Goff versus Max Brosmer. I am taking Detroit here. The Minnesota defense is terrifying, but I believe in that Detroit offense is a much better offense, but much better quarterback than what Minnesota has. So I think Detroit will win this game on Christmas. Then we have my boys, the Denver Broncos, taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Broncos are favored by a whopping 12.5 points. The over-under is a measly 36.5 because the Chiefs are using their third-string quarterback. So I, of course, did take the Broncos like I do every week, but even if I was a Broncos fan, I would take the Broncos. It is hard to pass on a 12.5 point spread there. Will the Chiefs cover? Most likely not. I think the Broncos will end up winning this by double digits. Saturday, we've got 2 games on Saturday this week. The first one is the Houston Texans taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are favored by 2.5 at home. The over-under is 39.5. I am taking Houston for this game. Houston is highly motivated to win out these last 2 games and to get a guaranteed spot in the playoffs and then maybe even move up in the division. The Baltimore Ravens take on the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay. The Packers are favored by 2.5. The over-under is 40.5. It's looking like it's most likely going to be Tyler Huntley. Even without Micah Parsons and potentially no Jordan Love, I trust Malik Willis more than I do Josh Johnson. So I'm taking the Green Bay Packers to win this at home and to potentially make a playoff push to earn a spot. But I think that's going to be a kind of an ugly game, to be honest. Moving on to the Sunday slate, we've got quite a few games at the noon slate, and then we only have 2 games in the afternoon. First up, we got the Arizona Cardinals taking on Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are favored by 7 at home. The over-under is a whopping 53.5 because, well, Jacoby Brissett has been tearing it up. He didn't tear it up last week, but against this very terrible Bengals defense, we could be looking at a potential shootout between Burrow and Jacoby. I did take the Bengals here. Both teams aren't really playing for much, but I think Joe Burrow is playing out of his mind right now, trying to prove that he is the superstar that he is. So I'm picking the Bengals to obliterate the Cardinals defense. The Pittsburgh Steelers take on the Cleveland Browns. Pittsburgh is favored by 4.5. The over-under is a measly 34.5. I am taking the Steelers here. The Steelers are going to be fighting to get a playoff spot and potentially take the division this year. So I'm going with the Steelers. Even without Metcalf, I think they can still get it done. The New Orleans Saints take on the Tennessee Titans. The Saints are favored by 2.5 on the road. The over-under is 39.5. This one I went back and forth on a lot because I've been very impressed with both Tyler Shuck and Cam Ward. But I am going to go with New Orleans here. I really like Tyler Shuck. He's got a really good rapport with Chris Olave. Now, the run game is pretty much eliminated with injuries, but they managed to take out the Jets last week pretty handily. So I think they should be able to pull out a win here against Tennessee, even without any running backs, basically. But they have Taysom Hill. They've got Juwan Johnson. Their defense has been pretty solid for the most part, so I'm going with the Saints here. The Jacksonville Jaguars take on the Indianapolis Colts. The Jaguars are favored by 7 on the road. The over-under is 46.5. I'm taking the Jaguars here. They are on a mission to get that number 1 seed in the AFC. Trevor Lawrence is playing out of his mind. He's got a really good rapport with Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers, as well as Brian Thomas Jr. Brendan Strange has been a great tight end for him. Travis Etienne has been playing out of his mind on the ground. Their defense has been pretty solid. And with them going up against Old Man Rivers, the Colts are broken on both sides of the ball. So I think the Jaguars are going to take out their division rival this week on the road. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers take on the Miami Dolphins. Buccaneers are favored by 5.5. The over-under is 46.5. There's something clearly wrong with Baker Mayfield. I'm curious to see what kind of surgery he's going to end up getting after this year because he is not healthy. I think the Bucs can get it done, though, so I'm going to pick the Bucs this week to take out the Dolphins. But the Dolphins are kind of in a messy spot right now. They benched Tua, so they really don't have much to fight for. They're not going to be making the playoffs. The Bucs have a shot at making the playoffs or potentially taking the division from the Panthers if they can win out these last 2 games and get some help around the league. So I'm taking the Bucs here to hopefully bounce back from last week. The New England Patriots take on the New York Jets. The Patriots are favored by a whopping 13.5. The over-under is 42.5. I'm taking New England, obviously. The Jets are a hot mess express right now, and Drake May is at an MVP level right now. He's playing out of his mind. Even with the Demario Douglas injury, even with the Trevion Henderson injury, I think the Patriots can get it done and win pretty handily on the road, which means the Jets are probably going to win this game. So there's that, but I'm taking the Patriots. I don't have the guts to pull a Hail Mary and pick the Jets. The Seattle Seahawks take on the Carolina Panthers. The Seahawks are favored by 7.5. The over-under is 42.5. I'm taking the Seahawks here, but I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina ends up winning this game. This is going to be pretty exciting for the most part, I think. Bryce Young has been playing really good. He's got a really good rapport with Tech McMillan, Jalen Coker. Their defense has been pretty solid. Rico Dowdle has been great on the ground. But I think the Seahawks have a better defense. I think Sam Darnold with the Jackson Smith and Jigma chemistry that he has there with AJ Barner getting targets in the end zone. You have the combination between Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet on the ground. I think the Seahawks will end up winning this on the road and making a big case for the number 1 seed in the NFC. The New York Giants take on the Las Vegas Raiders. The Giants are favored by 1.5. The over-under is 41.5. I'm taking the Giants here, but this game is going to be disgusting. This is probably going to be a field goal game, honestly, and I think the Giants will end up winning by a field goal. But I also wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders end up winning this game. This is going to be the game for the number 1 pick of the draft, basically. So we'll see who ends up out on top, but I'm taking the Giants here to win on the road. The Philadelphia Eagles take on the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are favored by 2.5 at home. The over-under is 43.5. I went back and forth on this one, but I'm taking the Bills here. The Bills are going to try to clinch that, or try to take that division title from New England and get a better spot in the playoff bracket. And Josh Allen is determined to make a playoff push for the Super Bowl. So I'm going with the Buffalo Bills here to win at home. My matchup of the week, that is the Chicago Bears going up against the San Francisco 49ers. The Niners are favored by 3 at home. The over-under is a whopping 51.5. I am taking, let me double check so I get this right. I am taking San Francisco. Now, I thought about this a lot, and the deciding factor for this is that the Chicago Bears defense has been giving up the most touchdowns recently. So you have McCaffrey, you have Juwan Jennings, you have George Kittle, and you have Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy is going to rip apart this defense, and they're going to make a push here for the NFC East or the NFC West, and potentially that number 1 seed from Seattle. So I'm going with the Niners here to win at home. It's on Monday night. It's going to be a Sunday night. It's going to be a wild game. This is my matchup of the week. I'm super excited for this game to be on prime time. This is Caleb Williams against Brock Purdy. This is going to be fun as heck. But I am going with the Niners. I thought about the Bears, but I trust Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, and that whole offense much more than I do the Bears. Plus, the Bears are potentially going to be without Rome Odunze and Luther Burden again. So they're definitely hurting for weapons for Caleb. Monday Night Football. We've got the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going with the Rams here. The Rams are still making a push for the NFC West as well as the number 1 seed in the NFC. Puka, Stafford have been playing out of their mind. It sounds like Davante Adams might miss this game. Let's see if I can find any update on Davante Adams here real quick. I think he could potentially be missing. Not expected to play in Week 17, to be monitored throughout the week. So we probably won't be seeing Davante until the playoffs, which is unfortunate for me because I'm playing Puka in my championship. But it is what it is. I am taking the Rams, though, to win on Monday night against the Atlanta Falcons. The Rams are favored by 8.5. The over-under is 49.5. So it could potentially being a high-scoring game. You know, you got Kirk Cousins, who's been playing decently. He's got Drake London back. Kyle Pitts has been a superstar at the tight end position. You always believe in Bijan. So we will see how Kirk Cousins holds up against that Rams defense. But I am taking the Rams here to win on Monday night. So that is my picks for the Week 17 slate. Let's hope we can get all these right. I'll take only 2 wrong at this point. The ones I think that I'll probably get wrong is, the Eagles and Bills ones, that one seems kind of tough, so that could be one that I get wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if the Panthers end up winning it. Watch the Jets pull a huge upset against the Patriots. That seems like one of those games where the Patriots seems locked in as a guaranteed win, and then this is where the Jets come in and just sweep the leg. I could see the Cam Ward Titans beating the Saints, so I could get that one wrong. I think that's pretty much. I think the other ones, I feel pretty confident in the other ones. So I could potentially be getting 3 or 4 wrong here, but we're gonna roll with it. So they end the Christmas episode like we always do. Let's see if Santa can show me the money. I was very disappointed this last week. I was one Trey McBride touchdown away from winning that bet last week for $780. We're going to hope to replicate that and win some money here on the Christmas slate. So let's get to the Show Me the Money Santa segment of today's show. So like I said, last week I missed out on the Trey McBride touchdown bet, so I did not win that bet, but I did hit everywhere else. To kind of recap, the Chase Brown anytime touchdown hit. He ended up with 3. Ted McMillan ended up getting a touchdown as well. Drake May threw for 2, which was great. Cortland Sutton got his touchdown, and then Omarion Hampton got his touchdown as well. Missing out on the Trey McBride. He had it in his hand, and he dropped it on the goal line. And there goes $780 down the toilet. But let's shoot for the moon here. We got a $5 bet, and the potential winning is $1,035 if all of these hit. It is a very, very long shot. I got pretty lucky last week, so let's see if we can get a Christmas miracle this week and win some money. So I did the same setup like I did last week, where I have 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a tight end to get touchdowns. We're doing a Christmas touchdown miracle shot. So at the quarterback position, I'm taking a risk here. I'm going with Jalen Hurts. We're going to go over the 1.5 passing touchdowns. I think the Buffalo Bills defense is going to make him very difficult, and they're going to be ahead. So Jalen Hurts is going to be forced to throw the ball to Brown, Smith, and Goddard. So I'm going to hopefully to get at least 2 touchdowns out of him. At the running back position, this was a little tough. So I'm going with Devon Achane to get a touchdown against Tampa. And then David Montgomery, I'm going to take a chance on him to get a touchdown against Minnesota on Christmas. So we will find out very early in this week if this bet's going to work. Because I also, for the wide receiver position, I have Jameson Williams getting a touchdown on Thursday against Minnesota, and then Nico Collins getting a touchdown against the Chargers on Saturday. So those are the wide receivers and running backs. And then at the tight end position was a little tough. I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go with. So I'm going with Harold Fannin for the Browns. I'm going to bet on him getting a touchdown against Pittsburgh, because crazier things have happened. So I'm going to shoot for the moon on that one. So that is the bet. That's a $5 bet on Sleeper for 1,035 smackers. Let's hope a Christmas miracle happens this week. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode and this year's Christmas special episode. This will be dropping on Christmas Eve. So feel free to watch this as well as any of the other episodes that have come out so far this year with your family and friends around the Christmas tree and get prepped up for your fantasy championship. So good luck to everybody. If you made the championships, I hope you get those trophies, crowns, and moolah. If you did not make the championships, there is always next year. I hope you had a good season of fantasy football, though. And we will look ahead to Week 18 and see who else is making a final push for the playoffs in the NFL. So I will see you all next week as we come out of Week 17. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you and your family. And we will see you all next time.